It must have been probably, I'd say 7 minutes after I ended the stream yesterday. This news story broke out that really solidifies why I say that the immigration topic has completely just shrouded everything around it. Let me say a little Ruben, who I'm very glad is able to tune in. I know he's a very busy man. He, and I mean that in a non-sarcastic manner. I'm not trying to insult you. People like to misconstrue things I say. And then, Dirk finally is away from his girlfriend to be able to participate. President Trump announced Sunday that Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen will leave her post, ending a rocky run as the top official in charge of implementing the president's hardline immigration policies. The decision, which Trump announced on Twitter, comes just 2 days after the president abruptly pulled his nominee to lead immigration and customs enforcement because he said he wants to go in a tougher direction. The move signals that Trump is seeking to shake up his team in frustration over the spike in migrant families crossing the southern border. Trump tweeted that Kevin Alanine, whatever the hell, doesn't matter anyway. Nobody's going to remember him in 2 years. The commissioner of Customs and Border Protection will lead the Department of Homeland Security on an acting basis until a permanent replacement for Nielsen is chosen. In her resignation letter, Nielsen wrote that she had determined that it is the right time for me to step aside. I hope that the next secretary will have the support of Congress and the courts in fixing the laws which have impeded our ability to fully secure America's borders and which have contributed to discord in our nation's discourse, she wrote. The president thanked Nielsen for her service and said he has confidence that Kevin will do a great job, but he did not explain what led to her exit. Nielsen led the sprawling department's efforts in immigration enforcement, disaster relief, election security, and cybersecurity since December 2017. She took over for her ally John Kelly as the head of DHS after he vacated the role to serve as White House Chief of Staff. Kelly left the White House at the end of 2018. During her tenure, Nielsen dealt with persistent rumors that her job was in jeopardy, as the president often seethed through the increase in migrant families and unaccompanied minors entering the U.S. and faulted her for not fixing the problem. Trump last November was set to fire Nielsen, who had privately expressed frustration about dealing with the president's anger over the situation at the border. But her job security once again became tenacious. Oh, a word I'm used to and I can't even remember it for this. I'm so sorry. After Kelly's exit last December, Kelly was a mentor to Nielsen and defended her against attacks from Trump and White House policy advisor Stephen Miller, an outspoken immigration hawk, according to reports. So that means that Kelly and Nielsen were best friends and like to kiss each other's behinds. And it's not a coincidence that shortly after he left, she left because she didn't have her buddy to bail her out anymore. Oh, I think the thing I find the most interesting about this isn't just the fact that this news literally broke out right as we ended that stream. Like literally the second I went on the hill after ending the stream, that news showed up. Dirk says Nielsen is a blur. Same with Kelly. It's like who? Can't remember. Ruben says, look at everyone in the Trump administration who has either quit or got fired. Yeah, there's a lot of people, but that's kind of what I'm most interested in this story for. I could care less about speculating as to what led her to leave her, and it doesn't matter. She's a person in a large scale issue. Notice the fact that Mattis left, the defense secretary. What was it, 2-3 months ago? And we still don't have a new defense secretary. We just have an acting one, Shanahan or whatever the hell his name is. So what I'm wondering is how long it's going to take for Trump to realize, hey, we have multiple acting secretaries, need to get some nominees through. And this was the same thing with Barr, where Sessions left, and then we didn't get Barr for like what, 2 months. Like it was this huge delay between when one person leaves, when another one shows up, which lets you know how disorderly stuff is. And I'm not, I could care less if Trump wants to fire anybody he wants. That's his position. But the issue here is that there's a pattern of people leaving, and then this some huge period of time goes by, whether it's some weeks or a month or 2 months, And then let's see, Ruben says anyone already replaced Haley for UN ambassador? I don't think so. I think that I could have sworn the person he picked withdrew her name. Let me look it up. I remember Haley. She was, governor of South Carolina. They used to, I think I told you before. I first became interested in politics in 2013, like toward just actively following it. And I remember they would always talk about Kelly as one of the, she could be the first female president. They were always talking about her as this aspirational politician that was just going to keep on rising and rising and rising. And I just love that after she got picked to be Trump's UN ambassador, her career just went, erupted in flames. Like it's hilarious. I love that. Dirk says there are too many war hawks that go in and out of top positions, exactly with the position of security guy being a placeholder. But that's my thing. Apparently, I was watching MSNBC this morning, and I hate these networks. But one of the pundits was talking about how when the Homeland Security Department was made, one of its purposes was to address threats to Homeland Security, and that existed outside of the immigration topic. So, with people and entities like ISIS and Al Qaeda, and before he died, Bin Laden, these were things that were supposed to be under the belt of that department, and they were pointing out how it's literally been turned into just immigration center, like nothing else goes through. And that's why I said that I don't dislike talking about, I don't think immigration is not something that should be discussed. I don't think it's something that should be ignored for the sake of other things. I'm just sick of it being spoken about to such an extent that it completely drains everything else that happens around it. We just had this story with Iran and the US trying to call one of its affiliates a terrorist group. This was a story that just broke this morning. You don't hear anything about it. All you hear about is who's going to replace the Homeland Security Secretary? Who is Trump going to fire next? All this gossipy crap. I hate it. Anyways, let me answer your question, Dirk, not Dirk, Ruben. You left a comment after him. I got confused. Okay, so to answer your question, Ruben, no, the current nominee is, what's this idiot's name? Kelly Craft, who was nominated in late February. So I guess the halfway answer is that Trump has picked somebody else. They just haven't had and that's not his fault. That's the Senate being stupid. God, they get a million vacations. Oh yeah, we'll eventually confirm the nominee for this top position, maybe in 3 months. It's like you guys don't realize half of Trump's first term is over, and he goes months without having an actual secretary for these positions because he'll pick someone and then it'll take another 5 or 6 weeks to have confirmation hearings and have a vote. It's so weird. Yeah, let me see. I keep mixing her up with that other one, the one Neward or whatever that person's name was, and then my phone is taking a while to load, so that's even more wonderful. All right, so she is a businesswoman and diplomat, currently serving as the U.S. ambassador to Canada. Oh, I think this is the one that. Oh, I remember her because McConnell was like, "Oh yeah, she's from Kentucky and I'm from Kentucky, so Trump should pick her." So she's more than that, Ruben. She's even though she probably is going to do the exact same things that Kelly did, which is why it's always funny to see liberals like celebrating on Twitter that the whoever the hell left. It's like, oh yay, no more Homeland Security Secretary for 2 months. Bye bye, ha 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 ha. And then somebody else comes and they do the exact same thing, and then they spend the next 2 years telling that person on social media how horrible and terrible they are. All right, let's get to some other stories, this is the one I want to talk about the most. The Trump administration, I'd say it so quickly, announced Monday it is labeling Iran's Revolutionary Guard a foreign terrorist organization, the first time the United States has applied the label to an entire government entity in a move designed to significantly ramp up the pressure on Tehran. This action sends a clear message to Tehran that its support for terrorism has serious consequences, President Trump said in a statement Monday. We will continue to increase financial pressure and raise the cost on the Iranian regime for its support of terrorist activity until it abandons its malign and outlaw behavior. I like that. Until it abandons its malign and outlaw behavior. It's like, I won't talk to you until you abandon your malign and outlaw behavior. The designation will take effect 1 week from Monday. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo told reporters at the State Department shortly after Trump issued his statement. The designation is a direct response to an outlaw regime and should surprise no one, Pompeo said. The IRGC masquerades as a legitimate military organization, but none of us should be fooled. A lot of people are fooled by the U.S., but we'll get into that later. The announcement comes a little less than a month before the 1-year anniversary of Trump's decision to withdraw the United States from the Obama-era Iran nuclear deal. The designation of Iran's, which was stupid, by the way, because like I said before, all of the stuff they're doing currently, like anything that's anti-Iran, is just them licking Israel. Netanyahu's cum in their mouth. That's all this is. The designation of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps, which controls large swaths of the Iranian economy and answers directly to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader, comes with sanctions such as freezing any assets that might be in the United States and a ban on Americans doing business with the Guard. That's the free speech president right there, telling you who you can and can't do business with. I mean, like that's the, you know what? Let's cut it off right there. What gets me is that when I did the video about the vaccinations and how, I have no sympathy for people that refuse to get vaccinated, and because this is a contagious disease that they go around spreading to other people, and then they whine about, individual liberty and government shouldn't be able to do this to me and blah 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 blah. So I have no sympathy for them when they end up getting worse off in their illness or anything else. But what I find really comical is that we were told that the government should have no control over what people say, who, what, just stuff like that. So what I'm talking about here is that this is entirely reminiscent of the anti-BDS movement, where it wasn't just I oppose this group, BDS, boycott, divestment, sanctions against Israel for their human rights abuses. No, now we also have to make it to where it's illegal for you to do business or, participate in this group. It's the same exact thing. Kind of reminds me with the, wow, I didn't even read your comment, Dirk, and we said this. That's crazy. But think about it. They tell you we believe in free speech, except if it's against our good old buddy Israel. Oh no, you got to go on that one. Holy hell. I almost want to play that press conference, but I have a feeling it's gonna be me getting more annoyed. It's like, it's easier to read this weird stuff than it is to actually hear people say it and, sound like they're convinced of it. Because you do have, I told you, a group of Trump supporters who don't know anything about Israel, don't know anything about Iran, but because Trump supports Israel, they go, yeah, I love Israel. Yeah, more Netanyahu come. Every time. So, it's none of it's based around actually knowing what's going on over there or caring about human rights or any of that stuff they like to claim that they do. Dirk says if this keeps going, they might do the same with Saudi Arabia. Yeah, and that's why, like, all these, I just don't get his supporters. Like, I don't get why people support these political candidates and call themselves being in favor of human rights, call themselves, thinking that, like, I'm supposed to believe you think men and women are equal while you support someone who supports a government where the broads over there can't even show anything on themselves. Okay. Where they banned freedom of speech for, what was it, like 8 years at this point in Saudi Arabia, since like 2011. So it's all hypocritical. President Trump is removing U.S. Secret Service Director Randolph Ailes from the position, or Allies, Ailes, however you pronounce this guy's name. United States Secret Service Director Randolph Tex Ailes has done a great job at the agency over the last 2 years, and the president is thankful for his over 40 years of service to the country, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said in a statement Monday. Mr. Ailes will be leaving shortly And President Trump has selected James M. Murray, a career member of the United States Secret Service, to take over as director beginning in May. CNN first reported that Trump was firing Ailes, citing multiple administration officials. Ailes reports directly to Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, who resigned Sunday effective April 10th, reportedly due to her resistance against White House directives to resume separating migrant children from their families. Reportedly, we'll learn more when she's able to speak and not be part of the Trump team anymore. They love doing that, where they actually tell you how they feel after it's no longer going to hurt their coins and get fired over it. That's courage right there. The Secret Service recently came under scrutiny for its handling of an incident in which a Chinese national was allowed to enter President Trump's Mar-a-Lago club. The woman, who alternately claimed to be there to swim and attend an event for Chinese American business leaders, was eventually determined to be carrying 2 Chinese passports and a device containing malware. The Secret Service and White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment from the Hill. Is that really a surprise? Like, nobody even knows who you guys are. Ruben says U.S. giving biased favoritism for Israel has been happening for much longer than what most people realize. Yeah, I said it before. I think basically every president after the older Bush pretty much is just kind of bootlicked for them. I think Obama at one point did something that was not against them, but just wasn't entirely in their favor. And the Republicans flipped out on him. It was like all the way toward the end of his term. It was like a United Nations resolution. I have to look it up, but I know that Cruz tried to condemn him. He was like, "Oh, you're going to be remembered as being against Israel. So I hope you enjoy your anti-Israel legacy." It's like, yeah, I'll be very happy to have that legacy. The crappiest government the world has ever known, other than ours. Let's see here. A little fawning article about John Lewis. Not interested. It's like, who's he going to endorse out of, was it like 19 people? They're running for president now on the Democrat side. It's like, man, who even cares? It's like whoever he endorses is going to be somebody that we already know is, has like a third of a chance of winning, basically. Like out of those top 5 or 6. And another wonderful Trump story, because we never have enough of those. President Trump will travel to Texas Wednesday to announce 2 new executive orders that aim to make it easier for the oil and gas industry to get permits for pipeline construction, among other infrastructure needs. Which, by the way, in case people forget, we have a D+ in infrastructure because we only believe in spending billions of dollars in foreign conflicts. How wonderful. That's why all the Republicans talk about getting rid of the education department. Notice how the same Republicans that are anti-war and talk about the government, having all these unneeded agencies, which they use as their reason for wanting to get rid of the education or energy department, never say, hey, why don't we just give the activities of the Homeland Security Department, which is the newest one, back to the Defense Department? Just combine them, just abolish this one department. They never do it because a Republican made it. And anytime a Republican does it, we have to keep it. So just saying. The executive orders, which will be announced at the International Union of Operating Engineers International Training and Education Center, that's a mouthful, outside Houston, will each focus on incentivizing private enterprise and energy infrastructure and streamlining permitting of projects, according to a White House official. The 2 executive orders the president will sign will help American energy companies avoid unnecessary red tape, allowing the U.S. to continue to be the undisputed global leader in crude oil and natural gas production for the foreseeable future. We're definitely going to be that after we, do our coup in Venezuela and jack their oil. Okay, David says, read the article about how the California was separated from the U.S. Wasn't Texas trying to do that? Like I said, people have brought that up to me before. I don't know anyone who supports that. So Ruben says, yes, Texas threatened to secede, but never carried it off. Yeah, because no one's serious about doing that. Like maybe a governor will try to push it and then the state will resist against them because they all, whether you're in a blue state or red state, none of these states are going to say, I'm better off without you, like without all of the other states. Just let's not even pretend to like each other anymore. They're not going to do that. The people, anyway, in mass, will just say, screw it, or this is stupid. Oh, here's another good story. And not good, but Envoy will remember the Banana Wars, that term and like the way it's used by me sometimes. 3 U.S. service members and a contractor were killed on Monday by an improvised explosive device in Afghanistan. NATO's Afghanistan mission said in the statement that 3 others were injured and are receiving medical care. I hate all these little stupid ads they put up here. The names of the service members are being withheld for 24 hours based on Department of Defense policy. The attack comes as the U.S. and the Taliban have been holding peace negotiations. Yeah, the peace negotiations while they have devices that blow people up. The attack comes as the U.S. and the Taliban have been holding. Oh, I said already. The fifth round. Donahue distracted me. I want him to get out now over what he did. The fifth round of talks ended last month in Quaidar, and another conference between the groups is set for this month. 2 U.S. Soldiers were killed in Afghanistan's Kunduz province in March. The Associated Press reported that the Taliban has claimed responsibility for the attack because they always do. They claim responsibility for stuff they didn't do as well. So it's kind of, take it with a grain of salt, but I have no reason to not believe they did it. They feel really good about being evil. So it's all wonderful. Oh, the Banana Wars never end. And like I said, this is a story that I haven't seen talked about on Fox today. I haven't seen talked about on any of these major networks. And then people wonder why I say it's not worth, being involved in that manner. Let's see here. Do you like, what does this have to do with anything, O'Donoghue? Okay, David says peace negotiations. Yeah, okay. What are they going to break with that treaty? But I'm supposed to believe they haven't tried any quote unquote peace negotiations in the last 17 years of being over there. Like that war, the problem with it is that because it's gone on for so long, every time somebody says it's going to end, I just kind of, roll my eyebrows or not roll my eyes and just say, yeah, sure. Uh, Definitely it's going to come to a conclusion just in a mocking manner because we've seen this before. Oh, it's going to end soon. It's like, yeah, who are you fooling? So I don't buy it. I'm sure somebody else actually is optimistic, but like I said, it's all of what I'm saying is based around how many people get blown to pieces before this stuff ends. Mark says, "What's this stream about?" The Monday news. It says it in the title. Where I read the multiple stories. I thought you were familiar with this, Mark. Are you trolling me? I was wondering why you didn't have an avatar. The reason you have an avatar is because you want to troll someone and not have your picture shown. So that when you finish trolling, you can get off the computer and you can go, "Ooh, I tried to confuse him during the stream by saying something that I knew the answer to." And then you can pat yourself on the back, and your dastardly plan will be in place. So it's all part of your concocted effort to trick everyone. All right, let's go into presidential politics. The wonderful thing that no one cares about. Here's someone I've never seen before, Mr. Liming. The Trump campaign did not work with Russian nationals for dirt on the opponent. I don't know who said they did, but okay. I mean, go watch the end of the Mueller era stream. I was fully on that opinion. So even had somebody come in there and try to get upset. I was like, oh well. Former Vice President Joe Biden holds an 18-point lead in South Carolina among a field of Democratic presidential candidates and possible candidates, according to a new poll. I don't even know why they include anybody else other than just him out of the possible people, because everyone else should have been in by now. The survey conducted by Change Research and shared with the Post and Courier shows Biden with support from 32% of likely primary voters. He is followed by Senator Bernie Sanders, independent of Vermont, at 14%, and Senator Kamala Harris Democrat of California, or as I like to call her, Kamala, at 10%. The survey also shows former Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams climbing in the state, though she trails several candidates. I mean, they're all trailing several people except for the top 2 or 3. Senator Cory Booker, Democrat of New Jersey, and former Representative Beto O'Rourke, or some people like to call him Beto O'Dork, Democrat of Texas, each garnered backing from 9% of likely voters in the state. So I wouldn't take this poll seriously. Okay, let me go. Yeah, you brought up Pete, so let me count him in here too. While Abrams and South Bend, Indiana, I guess it's South Bend. They're not abbreviating it. I'm not familiar with Indiana's states, or rather its cities. My error. Anyways, Mayor Pete is at 7% with Abrams, who's not even in the race. So if you notice the numbers on that, basically everybody's around 12 or 13. Booty. Dirk says booty grudge. But notice how it's Biden in like the 30s, which he's not going to get 30% of the vote over there. And that's of any candidate. No one's walking away with some huge, ridiculous amount of this stuff, especially when it's a competitive race where there's 2 or 3 people who realistically could win. So everyone else is around that 10 to 13, 14 thing. That's a lot more accurate. I guarantee you, he jumps in, that stuff just shrinks, just goes down. Let's see. Ruben says mainstream media is using Obama-style ads to promote Mayor Pete. Yeah, I think he's overrated, but people are backing this guy, so it's all good. Well, here comes O'Donohue with his other account. He's supposed to be pretending to be this famous actress. How wonderful. Mark says Trump will probably get a second term, most likely. Well, I already said that I only think maybe 3 people out of that whole field actually could win. So, Splendora Gaiman and I have argued about this repeatedly. Not argued, but just kind of gone back and forth. I said it's all based around the fact that a lot of these people have no name recognition, and they're not even really that well liked by Democrats themselves. And the only reason a majority of people would even, independents and some Democrats would even vote for them is because they just hate Trump so much, they'll back whoever they think has a shot of winning. And since I live in a state where the Democrat wins, whether it's, again, Bernie or Booker or Harris or Daffy Duck or the Three Stooges or the Looney Tunes or the Turtles, it doesn't matter who they put on there, they will win. So I have the option to just sit at home and not be concerned. I can write my own name in for all I care. Mark says, what happened to Ron Paul? I think he would have been a great president. Remember they cheated him during the Republican primary to like bump up Romney. But if you're asking what he does now, he has his own show. I've mentioned repeatedly, the Liberty Report. David says, what do these policies buy? A campaign package from the media? It's the same stuff. You would think all they do is pick a person who they think is pretty, in the sense of like appealing visually or whatever, and then they decide to prop them up as being some darling angel. And the rest of us have to just kind of put up with it. So let me send this to Mark. That should be his channel. Let me see if I can click the link and confirm. Every time I do that stuff where I share a link, I'm always worried there's going to be some kind of internal issue, or it's going to not actually be the case that what I clicked is correct. Like there's some kind of thing on YouTube where they're like, oh, you thought you picked this channel, but you really went over here. We just have the cover of the other channel. So that's the motive for doing that. Let me go over here and look up this one. There was some other stupid story. Top Republican calls on Nadler to have Mueller testify. More Russia stuff. How wonderful. No, I think his show, Mark, is really good. Like, whenever he talks about the wars or how horrible Bolton and Pompeo are, the National Defense, the National Security Advisor and Secretary of State, it's great because it's the truth. They're terrible people that will back any conflict that they don't have to worry about getting themselves killed in because it's at the expense of someone else. And the only time I ever get upset about, what is this? Dirk says Ron Paul has a channel. How? Well, he's not the one who set it up. It's probably his like advisors or team of people. When you're out of Congress, you can do all kinds of stuff and have people following behind you. But going back to what I was saying, Dirk, the only time I ever usually get upset at his content is when he starts doing that capitalism, socialism crap. Because I said before, all these Republicans have pretty crappy views on domestic issues. So that's usually when I get problematic with this stuff. Dirk says just don't see any of his domestic videos. Yeah, man, but like every time I watch them, I just feel like my brain is melting because it's like, how can someone say all this correct stuff about this one, not even one topic, all these different countries, and then like start trying to fearmonger about Venezuela and all this crap that just is so like especially if that place is so bad, why the hell is the U.S. trying to go over there so much? It's just weird. So Mark says, "Yup, Vietnam War was a waste, along with the war in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria. Nothing but death, pain, suffering, and debts." Yeah. I mean, I got into some firefight. I was like, I really like Johnson, but that war was stupid. It's like that's how when you're an objective fan of someone, you can point out what was good about them and what was bad, and that was definitely bad. That was a complete waste of money and effort and lives. Everything you can think of that went into it was wasted. Dirk says he fearmongered Venezuela. I thought him and Rand were against that intervention. I don't remember him. Maybe I haven't seen the ones on Venezuela because I don't see every single one of his videos. But I could have sworn that like all the different countries he like just says, yeah, it's stupid that we're going over there. So I'll go look over there and check it out, Dirk. If you're telling the truth, that'd be funny if you got pissed and then you decided to like cut out a piece of his video and then put on your channel and be like proof to whoever that Ron and Rand Paul are both in favor of Venezuela intervention. Ruben says Johnson wasn't the main instigator for the Vietnam War. It was the intelligence agencies and weapon company. No, I'm fully aware of that, but that's kind of my point that when we had what is this quote mining LOL, yeah, but I was trying to say that what I thought was funny is that when I was saying I was happy Trump was getting out of Syria and all these idiots that don't like him were saying the generals are saying stay over there, so he should stay over there because the generals are saying stay over there. It's like, no, these are the same douchebags who said go into Iraq, go into Afghanistan, go into Vietnam, go into any country we've gone to. And every single one of these conflicts, we either lose or have a stalemate or whatever the hell. But literally, if it should be proven at this point that the idiots that are in charge of picking out, what conflict we go into, don't actually know what they're doing. Okay, Mark says Kennedy is the greatest president. I personally think he's overrated, and I already did a stream about that. I think last year, but whatever. It is what it is. I'm not going to argue with you, brother. Dirk says, "What did that president do?" Yeah, my thoughts exactly. I thought it was funny that usually when like remember how we were talking about the platitudes, like for these different candidates, Dirk, how basically all of them, for the most part, only try to fluff you up with stuff about going back to who we are as Americans and all this crap that doesn't actually tell you where they stand on issues. I see a pretty similar thing with a lot of the people, not even just Kennedy supporters, just people who like to pretend, kind of like do the revisionist history thing where they talk about his vigor and his courage, all this stuff that doesn't actually mean legislative accomplishments, like just I thought that was a really interesting parallel, like lionizing this president and then also these people lionizing themselves in their rhetoric. If you vote for me, I'll restore America to its proper democracy. Does that mean you're going to stop denying democracies in other countries like your predecessors? What the hell are you talking about? It's amusing. Mark says G. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to mess with your grammatical stuff. Tried to end the Federal Reserve. Tried to remove troops from Vietnam. Dirk says thank LBJ for doing it. Yeah. I swear it's just I personally wouldn't even put him in the top 20, but I'll take him any day over the last 4 of them. So put that where you will. We're gonna get derailed on a whole other topic here because he said that. Let's see. Dirk says the fake O'Donohue. LO, what kind of name is that? It's like the non-real O'Donohue. The non-existent one. He does that every time where he makes all the different accounts to mess with me and try to derail the stream. Ruben says Ron Paul is against intervention in Venezuela, but uses anti-Venezuela to advocate against domestic social programs. Yeah, he does the same thing all the other Republicans do. They just I can give them credit up until I'm blue in the face for being against wars, but I can't pretend domestic issues are not being appropriately addressed, and how every single one of them seems so scared to say any slight thing that is in favor of just something that could be considered liberal or whatnot. Mark says Wilson is the worst president in history. I love how you picked the one that I have the same birthday as. That's great. Okay, David says, didn't most of the presidents go to the same schools, universities? I think it was 12 or 13 that went to Harvard. So there is a thing of certain schools have a bunch of, presidential alumni, if you will. Just like certain professions have the same thing where, a bunch of them were senators, a bunch of them were members of the House, just stuff goes. Ruben says, I call Trump the obese Woodrow Wilson. I mean, I call him, the new, orange Herbert Hoover, but it is what it is. Problem with doing that is people don't even know who that was, so it's harder to make that joke. Dirk says, sounds like what a libertarian Republican in the U.S. would do. So I'm saying, man, it's just I can't fully back them because I realize if they got their way, a lot of these domestic issues would still be the same problem. All this self-innovation crap, I'm tired of hearing it from, hoes that had their daddy pay for them to go to school and had their daddy give, inherited stuff from their father. Just I don't buy that when I look at your own personal story. It was mind-boggling, and I told you Twitter is the I'm gonna start doing a thing where I pull this quote from this video of NBA where he was talking about Twitter. That's the same person that had remember the outro, who that's from. But it's the same thing where when you go on Twitter and you talk to these people who are Trump supporters and you say, hey, look, we need single payer, we need free college. And people will obviously still work to get money, whatever. But you explain and articulate this is not about a nanny state because these people still work for their own. And they get pissed at you. They tell you that you need to man up as if, they have some window into your soul, all this crap about self-innovation. And then they're saying this while they have the ball sack of a guy who inherited his stuff from his dad right in their mouths. And these are the people I'm supposed to take seriously and think of as, actual sophisticated enough people where I'd want to speak to and have discussions with about this topic. Mark says he ended the gold standard and allowed today's monetary system to be in place. There's no value in paper money that can be printed out. Dirk says Ron Paul is probably one of the best, but if not the best a Republican can be still, but has something. Personally, my favorite Republican out of all the modern ones, so between the presidents, Congress members, members of the House, is the older Bush. That's the last president I think you could actually convince of something, and try to get to actually come to your side. This when they talk about moderates, that's the one I can actually picture. If you showed enough stuff to of whatever, they would change their mind accordingly. I appreciate that, Ruben. I was getting confused. It's Mark, just say Kennedy, please. Or JFK, whatever. That's why they have the abbreviation, because people are. Oh, okay, Mark. All right. Ruben was trolling me. he was part of the spin factor. Remember how they say the media is like the propaganda against Trump? Like my own chat is the propaganda against me. They're like, did you say this? Oh, you really meant that? No, he's talking about this. Like, holy hell. David says, did you guys see the tour of that 30-foot border? LML, what a joke. Same you see on the on the handball court. So yeah, that's why I don't take it seriously. Like, just all this is a gag. That's why I said we live in the Twilight Zone. Everything is backwards. That's why like people will get pissed off about the Supreme Court, and then like 2 years later, as this person is still on the Supreme Court, they don't try to vote out the senators that voted for that person to be on the Supreme Court. Or if they do, they don't even look at the rest of the person's record. Like all the people that were crapping on Collins for voting for Kavanaugh, I guarantee you didn't look at her record or anything else, or couldn't tell you anything else she voted for that they might have liked or not opposed, or whatever the hell. And you know why? Because the media chose not to cover those other instances of her not, like her vote being a contentious one, like, oh, is she going to vote for this or that? So they all became obsessed with the Kavanaugh stuff, and that's the only thing they remember her for. Which is really ridiculous if you've been a senator for 20 years and that's all anyone can recall you doing. Mark says, yep, he signed a contract to allow the Rothschild to run the current banking system supported by the Federal Reserve. Man, this is such an intelligent chat. I'm so flattered that these messages are being written here. Almost, it warms my heart. I mean, we just completely bucked the news. Now somebody's going to write in the chat, or somebody's going to complain in the comments section. I can't believe you didn't talk about the news for the whole 40 minutes. Like, oh well. Blame the chat for talking about presidents and then getting into the other stuff. I like how nobody even reacted to what I said. Oh, I thought you meant that he tried to stop that from happening. I thought you meant Kennedy. This whole conversation is crazy. Jesus. Marx is all. Oh my God. Mark, don't come in here with that. It's like if they had no power, why do people spend billions of dollars trying to keep the office from being, in the hands of whoever they don't like? It's more that defeatist stuff. Like every time I see that, I'm like, okay, so what office has power? Do congressmen have power? Do senators have power? Does the Supreme Court have power? Does the federal chair have power? Do the secretaries have power? Like I don't understand. Do the state senates have power? Do the state legislators have power? Like who's not a puppet? Am I a puppet? Do you see strings coming out of my back? I'm gonna just do this for the rest of the stream since everybody's we're all puppets here, except the chat. Soros is tugging me around, making sure that I don't do certain things. Mark says no, the UN has power. Well, then does the U.S. ambassador to the UN have power? David says, my Monday news, no. Dude, I would play that Vader yell if I could pull that clip up without a stupid ad. I hate ads on, like, my least favorite kind of experience on YouTube now is whenever there's an ad on a video that is longer than the video itself. Dirk says, our executive acts, whatever, it's just called a piece of paper. Thus, that means nothing. They just they just take the Constitution and just like use it as toilet paper. Yeah, I don't understand these laws. They're a joke. It's like, oh, we're gonna raise the age of gun ownership up to 21. It's like, yeah, this person that already has a weapon probably illegally is gonna be like, oh, now I have to wait 1,000 days to use it because they told me I have to be 3 years older. I mean, Mark, I really hate that kind of comment. I know that, you can have your own opinion or whatever, because so much of what's discussed here is the idea of, if something's not done a certain way, it'll be different. So if you go out and say everyone is, controlled by this system, and no matter who we put in there, it's always going to be the same. It's like, okay, well, we shouldn't even talk about the news. Just turn the stream off. I shouldn't make any more videos. Nobody should even write anything anymore. Let's just all just accept how it is. Nothing can be different ever. So let's all hush and lie down and be oppressed. Just like this. That's be the rest of the stream. Just lie down and be oppressed. I mean, think about that comment. That, like, what's the point of it? Like, to get off the news, because apparently that's over. Which it's already been a pretty slow day, other than those two people getting, their jobs yanked, and people celebrating. There was a person I encountered about 2 years ago. I used to have these chats with, and I remember one time he said something to the effect of, "Nothing matters," or, like, in the end, nothing, or some kind of, crap. And I was like, okay, well, if that's true, why do you go to school? Why do you turn on your computer? Why do you go on the internet? Why, because it goes both ways. If nothing matters, why do you do anything at all? Why do you feed yourself? Why do you crap? Why don't you just, let it come out? Like, what, if everything is so pointless, why do you persist in doing anything at all? So I don't buy that. I hate it when people say stuff like that. But they're gonna keep doing it. And usually I don't say anything because they're saying it to themselves. Just when you come in the chat and say that, expect a rebuttal, which, usually is not, "Oh my God, you're so stupid," but is based around, hey, if that's the case, then why are we even discussing this at all? Because people who engage in doing something, or, actually decide to address a topic, usually do that because they think what they have to say matters, or at least might do something, or, it might make them personally feel better. But you get the point. There's some tangible effect from that. Dirk says, "Why don't you just end it now? Hate that type of nihilism." Yeah, me too. And again, this isn't an indictment on Mark. Just like Dirk is saying, gets nothing done. I actually had a person who, to Mark's credit, just to kind of show his opinion isn't by itself, told me something to the effect of, because I was talking about how, Trump they don't like Trump, and they were saying something to the effect of, all the presidents basically are figureheads to a larger system. And I said, if that's true, and that's all that they can ever be, why the hell do people spend billions of dollars in advertising and other forms of media to make sure that no one ever comes and, gets this office that they don't like? Okay, V says, just heard a outside my second story condo shouting about and the liberals taking over America. Yeah, you live around an insane person, or at least some insane person is occupying a similar space. How is Obama taking over America if he has no power? It's like, I'm glad he waited until he was out of a position of influence to say something, or the position of his highest influence. Marx says, I mean, on the small issues, the different political parties will have disagreements. When it comes to war or keeping the rich richer and the poor poorer, they're all on the same page. All right. Well, look, I don't bemoan thinking that both parties are the same, because I said before, I think there's a couple of people in both that are decent, or at least better than the rest, and then you have to kind of deal with all the other terrible ones that are around. I like how V came all the way at the end, right as you're about to cut it off. She shows up. Ruben says he trusts the plan, the the scheme. Could you imagine, like, it's Obama's last day in office, and then as he's flying in that plane, he turns on like a little computer, and he says, "Execute Order 66," and it goes, "Ha ha 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 ha," and there's like a little "to be continued" written on the screen. Jesus Christ. He's not doing anything other than getting rich off of Wall Street speeches. That's the evil scheme. Stuff in his pocket after 8 years of leadership. And man, Dirk really got pissed. He was like, "All right, we're done with this. We don't need to go any further." You know, it's funny that one of the reasons I did the stream longer yesterday was because of the fact that I had that illness on Saturday. And one of the reasons I'm doing longer today is because I don't know if I'll be able to do it tomorrow, which literally it sucks because I notice whenever I upload something, not even half the people that would show up for a stream will show up for an upload. And it was really amusing because I remember I had a person who said, "Oh, maybe if you do stuff that's shorter, people will watch." Like, yeah, but then no one actually tunes in when it's shorter. So it's just damned if you do, damned if you don't. Yeah, he's making all those coins off those speeches, Mark. I can't wait till he comes to your neighborhood and purchases all the houses. That's going to be his legacy, just buying properties and stuff in his pocket for the next 30 to 40 years. Like, I love how you would think someone who no longer is theoretically shackled, by having to appeal to donors would be like, okay, now I can finally talk about things in a way that isn't, doing like the bootlicking. And instead, it's literally just the complete continuation of that. It's wonderful. Dirk says the status quo has been kept and the poor are fighting themselves. Obama on that plane laughing. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you look at Chicago, they've had what was it like 30 it was like 30 shots in 24 hours or something. It was a bunch of people were shot. And that's his home, town as far as his political base. Not a word. And I kept trying to explain, I don't expect for him or anyone else who's notable from Chicago to go over there and turn into Magneto and start deflecting bullets and protecting it and all that. No. But when you are in a position of high name recognition, you can bring attention to stuff that a normal person such as myself or anyone in the chat wouldn't be able to do. That's why I got pissed at Harris. Oh, as a senator, I'm for single payer, which is why when I was attorney general and they had a single payer bill in the California State Senate, I kept my mouth closed. I threw away the key. But now I care. I've evolved. Rise and getting ready to run for president. How convenient. Mark says, wonderful way to make money because that's pretty much what life is about, making the Benjamins. It's like, yeah, but there's other stuff that you can also have in addition to that. I don't bemoan the speeches, or at least I wouldn't be bothered by them if it was accompanied by him doing something else that actually is assisting of anyone. Like I've looked at his, I guess, activities for the last 2 years. It's been him just going around having a vacation, showing up at some public event where him and some other high class people kiss each other's behinds and act like they're best buddies. Or in the rare cases when he does comment about political stuff, it's just him whining about his own stuff getting messed with. Like I know he put out the statement when they pull out of the Paris Agreement. I know that he talked about the Obamacare repeal attempts, but other than that, he doesn't say anything. So that influence is just completely wasted like that. So Mark says, wonderful way to make money. It's like, no, it's a wonderful way to waste influence. That's how I would phrase it. To paraphrase your comment. Okay. I think everybody's pretty much talked out. Dirk had his he's so pissed off he don't want to say anything anymore. It's like, oh man, this is so aggravating. It's like because you really, when you're part of the branch that doesn't like either party, you end up having to fight both sides. Like if I go on Twitter right now and I say Trump sucks, I'm gonna have his supporters come over to my stuff and start like ripping their hair out and going crazy. Even if I give reasons as to why I think that. And then if I go and say Obama sucks, I have his supporters come in and lose their minds too. Dirk says, but my Monday news. Let's see if there's any other stories. I'm pretty much sure that this is the finished thing of it. Lawyer George Conway ripped President Trump on Monday, saying he incompletely botched picking a successor for departing Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen. In several posts on Twitter, Conway, the husband of White House Counselor Kellyanne Conway, knocked Trump and the administration and said they were not prepared for Nielsen's exit, which was announced Sunday. That was weird. I've never seen, like, out of all these people that Trump's gotten rid of, it be announced during the weekends. Strange. Her letter said effective April 7th, yesterday, George Conway wrote, they must have realized late last night how Trump incoherently botched the naming of her successor without having someone check check the statute. But was the resignation letter accepted? His post quoted a tweet from Nielsen that said she would be staying at the Department of Homeland Security through Wednesday to assist with an orderly transition. I have agreed to stay on as secretary through Wednesday, April 10th, to assist with an orderly transition and ensure that key DHS missions are not impacted. By the way, if you actually look at that tweet's the comments on it, everybody was mocking that part of the tweet where she says key DHS missions. Somebody said is licking Trump one of the key DHS. They have a weird thing where they try to pretend like every single person who is around him is sexually involved with him. It's strange. Everybody, the whole world. Mark says Clinton was another decent president, if you say so. Now, Mark, you and I are not apparently going to get along. Oh man, let's see. Deregulating the banks, the Defense of Marriage Act. What's something else that we can think of? NAFTA. I mean, I would count that under the older Bush too, but by itself, it's not enough for me to say, yeah, you're terrible. David says Prince Harry worked undercover with the British spies, apparently. Ha 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 ha. Dirk says sounds like a movie I watched. Oh. Mark says in terms of entertainment. Okay, well, now I get it. It's like Jesus. He came in here. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna name everybody you don't like as being good, or everybody that you don't have a shared high opinion of as being great. It's like, have fun with that. So that's a wonderful way to do things, huh? Ruben says, I smoked but did not inhale. Mark says, especially when he cheated on Hillary, LOL. Now, I remember when that after that last election cycle, I was going around sending messages like, why didn't they run Monica? She always does it better than Hillary. She would have won. She should have been the Democratic nominee. I feel like SNL could have used that for one of their jokes, and they just never got around to it. People actually would think that was really funny if they did it, probably. Ruben says, who would want to get married to Hillary anyway? Apparently Bill did, so. I could have sworn there was some story where it was like after that happened, her mother was telling her that, screw Bill, go do your own thing. And she was like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. And basically just, completely ignored what her own parent was saying. It's like, whatever. Dirk says that's insane. Well, Dirk, we on here, we oftentimes talk about not finding certain people attractive and then still they end up with someone. So it doesn't surprise me at any age she'd be able to get with someone, especially, currently. You get my point that as much as we don't understand, people still like they're in all kind of things. Mark says that's the power of love, I guess. I have to imagine that when you go to one of those like really prestigious law schools, which is where they met, there's not that big of a pool of people to pick from because barely anybody can get in there. It's probably only gotten worse in the last 40 years since or 40 or 50 years since they encountered each other. So maybe, that was one of the few people up there. David says, nah, only kept her because I wouldn't put it past her. You can send her a tweet, see if she responds. Which, by the way, like I said, Twitter is the website where all the sewer stuff goes down. All the evil things that you never would hear someone say in a video, they're all set there. Because when we did the Insanity on Twitter stream yesterday, I pointed out if I went on here and I said if a woman does not read male authors, she probably hates men. I would be considered insane. I would have people leaving comments about how stupid I am, rightfully so. But then when someone does it on that website, that again is the sewer system where anyone can get fans, they completely they let it go on. So we'll close this out. I appreciate those who came. What weren't that many stories today, but it was still pretty entertaining to watch people rip their hair out over things that don't really matter all that much, like one secretary leave and just get replaced by somebody that's equally, if not more, terrible. So thank you. I appreciate it. I'll see if I can do it tomorrow. I probably won't because scheduling issues, but we'll see what happens.